At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
I'm Indy Neidell.
And I'm Burns.
And this is the Baseball History Time Machine.
Like a good neighbor, the time machine is there.
I don't want to get sued by State Farm Insurance for stealing their slogan, Burns.
I can't help it. They had so many ads in the NFL playoffs, I just find myself saying it every couple of hours.
The power of advertising. So, guess what we are doing today.
Right, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark here, but I reckon it's part 3 of Sluggers of the 1970s miniseries.
You guess right.
Now, the last time you finished going through the top 5 players with most total home runs in the 1970s, if I recall.
Yes, and the 5, for anyone out there who missed the last 2 episodes, were Willie Stargell, Reggie Jackson, Johnny Bench, Bobby Bonds, and Lee May.
And are we going to start off today where you said you would?
I am. I said at the end last time that today I would talk first about the team, the single team in the 1970s that had 3 players hit over 40 homers the same season.
Which I find interesting because 2 men on the top 5 most homers list never hit 40 in a season at all.
That's true. Bobby Bonds and Lee May neither of them ever hit 40 homers in a season.
Had three on one team in one season even been done before, up until that point?
No, but it has been done since.
Okay.
In 1996, the Rockies had Vinny Castilla, Andres Galarraga, and Ellis Burks. And then in 97, they had Castilla, Galarraga, and Larry Walker. The 2023 Braves did it as well.
That's right.
With Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, and Ronald Acuna Jr.
So only the Braves and Rockies franchises have ever done it.
Yeah.
How about that? That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
it's
That's
true.
pretty decent.
And in 1973, 53 years ago from when we're recording this, the Braves first did it. And the players who did it were Hank Aaron, Darrell Evans, and Davey Johnson.
Davey, the old Mets manager, Davey Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, was he a big slugger then? Well, obviously, let me answer my own question. Obviously, he toppled 40 homers in the season back in the 70s when people didn't really hit that many. That's pretty insane.
Well, as a player, Davey Johnson played 13 seasons. He had 9 full seasons.
Okay.
He was a second baseman. And he was a 4-time All-Star, and he won 3 Gold Gloves. But get this, only once in his career did he hit more than 18 homers in a season, and that was his 43 in 1973, which led the Braves.
That's a massive outlier.
In 6 of his 9 seasons, in which he played more than 110 games, he hit 10 or fewer home runs.
Doesn't really make much sense. Was he not a power hit? Well, obviously he did have power one season, and then the other season not.
Johnson explained his improvement.
Okay.
From the 5 homers he hit in 1972, 5 the year before.
To 43 and 73.
He said he had a new approach to hitting, where he'd look for pitches in specific zones instead of just fastballs.
No, but
Now,
still, that's insane.
Look, I hear you. There is this as well.
Okay.
According to then Braves pitcher Tom House, steroid use was common in big league clubhouses.
There we go.
One of House's quotes was that when they lost, they'd say, "We didn't get beat, we got out milligrammed." Now, that's a good quote, actually. That's really good.
That needs to be on a T-shirt.
We got out
That
milligrammed.
needs to be on a T-shirt. That is crazy talk. Okay, that's phenomenal. What a
There
quote.
was a congressional subcommittee investigating the use of steroids in baseball and other sports back then. During the 1973 season, they publicly released findings that usage was, quote, alarming.
Okay.
Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn had met committee chairman Harley Staggers.
Fantastic.
I know. I wanted to pause after that just so everybody could appreciate the majesty of the name Harley Staggers.
Mr. Staggers.
And Kuhn promised that baseball would take care of their drug problem quietly and without testing. The Braves' homer surge was, in fact, much larger the first half of the season, and Davey Johnson and Darrell Evans' home run rates began to fall after the report was released mid-season and fell much further the following season.
Okay, but looking back, right, and thinking of the eras in baseball,
Yeah.
the 1970s does not scream steroids in baseball to me. It just doesn't.
No, there are plenty of baseball histories that talk about fairly rampant amphetamine use in the 70s, but you don't often hear about steroids.
Exactly. And you think that's the reason for the Braves' homer surge that year?
I don't know. I mean, who can say? Fulton County Stadium was known as the launching pad for being so homer-friendly, but that doesn't really explain Johnson and Evans.
I also don't want to associate someone like Hank Aaron with steroids. That I would hate
Nor
that
should
if that's
you.
a thing.
No one should. Aaron hit 40 homers in just 392 at-bats that season, which is pretty darn good for a 39-year-old.
That's insane.
But 2 years earlier, in 1971, he hit 47, his career high,
Bro.
and finished third in the MVP voting with the highest slugging percentage and OPS plus of his whole career, 669 and 194.
669, 194. Dude, those are like those are Babe Ruth numbers. Those are 1920s Babe Ruth numbers.
And Aaron was 37 at the time.
Dude, that's
1973 was his last real slugging year, though.
Okay.
He hit 20 homers in 1974, but he did break Root's career homer
yeah.
record that year. Funny enough, had he not been limited to 120 games in 1973, he probably would have broken it already then.
Okay, so 1974 was a big year for record breaking. That was the year that Lou Brock broke the single season stolen bases record, correct?
Yeah.
You said that last time, if I recall.
I did, yeah.
Who was the third homer guy the Braves had again? Who
Okay, it was
who the other
Johnson
dude?
and Aaron and Darrell Evans.
Aha, okay. I don't think I've ever heard of him. Tell me more about Mr. Evans.
The guy that Bill James calls the most underrated player in baseball history in his baseball abstract.
Well, I've got my hands up in the air here. If James says it, it has to be true.
That might be true. It could be true. Evans, he was a third baseman, but unlike Davy Johnson, he did have a bunch of other slugging seasons.
Okay, but did he ever top the 40 homers again after 73?
He sure did, but not until 1985, when the 38-year-old Evans hit 40
That's
to
insane.
lead the American League. Well, he led the major leagues with the Tigers.
Okay, so there's a lot of guys in their like late 30s that are hitting insanely well. That's really impressive to me.
Well, he had good longevity. He hit 414 career homers, which is an awful lot. But just about 200 of those came after the age of 35.
Okay, that's an insane start. How old was he when he broke into the league?
22.
Okay, hang on. How many seasons did this guy play?
He played in 21 seasons, though the first couple were just like a couple dozen games, right?
Okay, this guy needs to be studied. What is his general background, if you don't mind me asking?
He grew up in California, big Dodgers fan. Let's see, left-handed hitting, right-handed throwing, power hitting third baseman, so he was in demand when he hit the minors in the mid-1960s.
I could imagine so.
He was in the A's farm system. However, he tore some shoulder ligaments, and he had problems throwing the ball across the infield, so his future looked pretty uncertain.
Yeah.
The A's also had Sal Bando coming up as third baseman, so they focused on Bando as their future third baseman and left Evans unprotected, and Atlanta snapped him up.
Well, I mean, to be fair to the A's, Bando worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, he finished in the top 5 in MVP 3 times. I finished second to
there you
teammate
go.
Vida Blue in 1971.
Okay, did Darrell Evans ever win or come close to winning an MVP in his playing career?
The closest he ever came was 12th in 1987 at age 40 with the Tigers.
How did the 340 homer guys do in 1973 in the MVP race?
Hank Aaron was 12th, Davy Johnson 13th, and Evans 18th.
Interesting. That seems somehow way too low.
They were all All-Stars. Pete Rose won the MVP with his third batting title.
Okay.
And in a close race, Willie Stargell was second, leading the majors with 44 homers, 119 RBI, and a 646 slugging
Yeah,
percentage.
okay, but none of them getting better than 12?
The National League that year had a really strong field. Bobby Bonds was third with his 39 homers and 43 steals
Okay, fair
and
enough.
131 runs scored.
Okay.
Joe Morgan was fourth. They didn't have WAR then, but if they did, he led all position players. He was Joe Morgan.
That's insane.
Tom Seaver was up there with another Cy Young season, his third. Mike Marshall nearly beat him in the Cy Young, though, appearing in 92 games and 179 innings, all in relief. It's not that much of a stretch to finish below a bunch of such guys.
Sure, I guess not, but still, dude.
The thing is, if they did have WAR, Evans would have finished second for position players with a 9.0 WAR, just behind Joe Morgan, and Evans also led the majors with 124 WAR.
That's so good.
He led the majors again the next year with 126, had 5 seasons of over 100, and he had 1,605 career walks, which is still today 12th all time, and he finished in the league top 10 15 times.
Look, if you said to me that I could have these numbers as a ball player, any ball player, I'd rip your hand off.
Yeah. When he retired, when Darrell Evans retired, who people don't even remember today,
Yeah.
he was 8th on the career walks list. And that's part of why Bill James thinks he's so underrated.
Yeah.
He hit just 248 for his career, but he had a very respectable 361 on-base percentage.
What did he do after his playing career was said and done?
He coached and he managed in the minor leagues.
A familiar story. All right, who are we talking about next?
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Well, I thought I would go down the list after doing that team of most homers in a single season in the 1970s and cover the guys there that I haven't already gotten to, right?
Good plan. So, who had the most homers in a season in the 1970s?
There was one and only one 50-plus homer season in the decade of the 1970s, and that was the 52 homers hit by the Reds' George Foster in 1977. Now, I remember when I was a kid, I had a book called All-Pro Baseball Stars 1977, which covered the 1976 season, the season before. Foster was in it because he had been second in the MVP to Joe Morgan in 76, hitting .306 with 29 homers and a major league leading 121 RBI.
Did he hit behind Joe Morgan in the lineup? You do that, you're going to get a lot of RBIs. Doesn't matter who you are.
This is true. And Foster was very often sandwiched between Morgan and Johnny Bench in the lineup. So you couldn't pitch around him, so he saw a lot of good pitchers. Foster led the league 3 times in a row in RBI, 76, 77, 78, leading the majors the first 2 times, and after his 52 homers in 1977, led the National League again in 1978 with 40 homers. Now, that book I mentioned says that Foster credited black coffee for his home run output. Oh, and it also said that he trained karate, apparently.
Right, so I already have the black coffee thing down, and I now need to do karate. All right. But to be sandwiched like that in that lineup between Morgan and Bench, that is
you can't pitch around anybody.
Hitter's dream. That's a hitter's dream. That's where you want to be, especially back then. Did he have any other good seasons after that run that we just described?
Well, he did, and the run continued from 1975 to 1981. He was remarkably consistent in terms of OPS plus, usually right around 150. And in the strike season in 1981, he was third in the MVP vote.
Okay, but roll back a bit. Did he win the year he hit 52 homers?
He did. He did win the MVP, but he did not walk away with it the way you might think, considering he led the league in homers, RBIs, runs scored, and slugging. The Phillies' Greg Luzinski finished second, getting 9 first-place votes to Foster's 15, but 255 total points to Foster's 291.
That's very close. How come it was that close, though?
You'd have to ask... I guess you'd have to ask the voters. Luzinski finished second in the MVP voting in 75, and Foster second in 76, so maybe they were just playing favorites. Foster even hit 320 in 1977, 18 points behind Dave Parker from winning the Triple Crown.
That seems like a no-brainer to me.
Maybe it's because Luzinski was a Philly. They won the division in 1977 and won 101 games, which is exactly the same as they'd done in 1976. But before that, in franchise history, they'd only ever come out on top in 1915 and 1950. And they'd only ever even topped 90 wins 4 times, with 94 as the high water mark, going back to 1883. So it's over 90 years.
Wow. All right. How did Cincinnati do in 77?
After 2 straight World Series victories in 75 and 76, they finished second in the division with 88 wins and 74 losses.
I can concede to see why some writers might have found Luzinski more valuable to his team than Foster.
It is most valuable player.
It is. It doesn't necessarily go just on stats. It goes on what that guy does for his team.
And I don't think there was anybody alive that had been around when the Phillies started as a team, and they won more games than they'd ever won before. Those 2 years in a row. Hey, here's a good description of George Foster, a sports writer once wrote. It is against George Foster's convictions to smoke, drink, chew, curse, or leave men on base.
The quiet, strong type.
He very much was that. Now, he came from Alabama originally, but when he was still a boy, his family relocated to California. And Foster, actually played in the same little league with another slugger of 1970s, Dave Kingman. Foster was drafted by the Giants in the late 60s, which was pretty cool to him, since Willie Mays was his hero all through his youth.
Yeah.
He eventually made it through the minors to the Giants and went up and down, back and forth a couple of times before sticking in a part-time role. But he was pretty lackluster, so he was traded to the Reds mid-season 1971.
Oh, God, here we go. Is this one of those legendary trades that goes terribly wrong for one and works out spectacularly for the other team?
Well, yeah, this one eventually, like the last time we talked about, the Giants got, the Reds got George Foster.
Yeah.
And the Giants got shortstop Frank Duffy and pitcher Vern Geichert.
Okay. I've never heard of either of them.
Duffy was an all-right shortstop, but only ended up playing 21 games with the Giants before moving on. Geichert was a minor leaguer who'd pitched 31 major league innings in 1969, but after 1971 didn't even pitch in the minors anymore.
All said and done, and Foster became an elite power hitter?
He did.
This is what you traded for?
That's what you traded for. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It happens, like the Joe Morgan-Lee May trade, you know.
Some of these trades are horrific. It's just horrific.
Well, Foster became an elite power hitter, but it did take time. He was unhappy with the trade, actually, because the Giants were in first place at the time, and the Reds were way down in the standings. But he did at least get to play every day. See, the Reds' star center fielder, Bobby Tolan, who led the league in steals in 1970, was out for the season in 71, so Foster came in to take over from him.
Ooh, how did he do?
I would say slightly below average.
Okay.
He hit but .234, and though he showed flashes of power, he only had 10 homers. And with Tolan back the next year, Foster was a part-timer and a pinch hitter in both 1972 and 1973. He did, however, as a pinch runner, in Game 5 of the National League Championship Series against the Pirates in 1972, score the winning run in the bottom of the ninth that sent the Reds to the World Series, right? That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Over the next couple of years, he matured, beginning his strict, super healthy training regimen, and also being coached by Reds hitting coach and absolute terror of a slugger of the 50s, Ted Kluszewski, which helped big time. Thing is, the 1974 Reds had an outfield of Ken Griffey, Cesar Geronimo, and Pete Rose.
My God.
So it wasn't until 1975, when Rose was moved to third, that Foster could take over a regular spot.
And this time, he grabbed this opportunity with both his mitts.
This he did, hitting .300 with 23 homers and just 463 at-bats, and he was on his way. And hey, fun fact, in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series against the Red Sox, when Carlton Fisk hit one of the most iconic homers in history to walk off the game. Now, the ball ricocheted off the foul pole, right?
Right.
Well, George Foster recovered that ball, and he kept it. It was auctioned off for over $100,000.
That would be the coolest piece of memorabilia to have if you
Oh
caught
man,
that
if I
and
had
kept
that
it.
ball, that's worth. I mean, it'd go for more than $100,000. Now, I'd love to have that ball.
I wouldn't sell it. I couldn't.
No, of course not.
I couldn't. I'd be like Schmiegel in my apartment in
It'd be your precious.
It'd be my precious,
You
100%.
build a little shrine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I seem to remember that Foster also played with the Mets. Is that true?
Yeah, though I imagine he wishes he hadn't, because it did not go very well.
How come?
Well, Foster was coming off 7 straight 20-plus homer seasons and 6 straight 90-plus RBI seasons when he went to the Mets after 1981. Remember, I said he was third in the NL MVP in 1981.
Yeah, correct.
But 1982 was a disaster. Foster played 151 games for the Mets, playing all year long.
Oh, jeez.
And he actually ended up with a negative WAR, hitting just .247 with only 13 homers and 70 RBI. And his OPS plus went from 150 in 1981 to just 90 in 1982.
Yeah, and if you remember OPS plus, 100 is league average.
Yeah,
So he was hitting below average.
yeah. The guy that finished third in the MVP the year before.
That's not good. What happened? Something had to happen. Like there was something obviously that wasn't gelling or...
Well, he was not protected in the lineup to begin with.
Okay.
But still, he's still going to hit. But I think he was just unhappy. He had a 5-year, $10 million contract, which was the largest in the National League. And the fans booed him really badly, and that cannot have helped. I mean, if you're sensitive to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, after that, he did get better each year. In 1983, he hit 28 homers, had 90 RBI, but he still walked way less than he had with the Reds because he wasn't getting as many good pitches.
Yeah.
Although his OPS plus was still below 100 that year, even with 28 homers. The Mets were finally getting good, though, and in 84 and 85, Foster was he was pretty good. Not great like a few years earlier, but a good deal above average. Slugging better, cranking out 20-plus homers each year again, right?
Hey, was he part of the World Series champion 86 team? It feels like he wasn't, though I can't say why.
He was, and he wasn't.
Okay.
He was on the Mets that year. That was the last year of his contract, playing part-time as a 37-year-old. But he was not with them by the postseason, and there was some controversy.
Oh, what happened?
Well, in August, Foster was quoted in the newspapers as saying, "When a ball club can, they replace a George Foster or a Mookie Wilson with a more popular white player. I think the Mets would rather promote a Gary Carter or Keith Hernandez to the fans, so parents who want to can point to them as role models for their children, rather than a Darryl Strawberry or a Dwight Gooden or a George Foster."
So basically he was accusing the Mets of racism.
It seems he was accusing Mets manager Davey Johnson of favoring playing white players.
Davey Johnson, who once hit 40 homers in a season with the Braves, I seem to remember.
Wow, I wonder where you learned that. Yes, that very same Davey Johnson.
But wait a minute. When you think of those Mets, the first person you think of is Dwight Gooden and Strawberry second. So that doesn't really make sense to me.
I'm not saying it was true, and I'm not even saying Foster's intention was to blame Johnson.
Maybe not.
And Foster said that his comments were totally taken out of context. Although it's hard for me to imagine a context where they don't mean what they say, but
which is also true. Yeah.
But though Foster, he was supported by a bunch of his teammates, but he was released, right? Oy. The White Sox picked him up, for whom he hit his 348th and final home run, but he was released after 15 games with them, and that was his career. He is in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, and he worked with their organization as a hitting instructor. He even had a baseball training clinic, the George Foster Baseball Clinic.
Shout out to Mike Epstein from last year, or from last episode. Shout out to Mike
Epstein. 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, to Mike Epstein from 2 episodes ago. So would you say that he's a bit of a more higher profile name than Mike Epstein's?
For batting clinic? Yeah. I mean, Epstein, no slouch. But
no, he's not.
But you remember, Foster was an MVP.
Yes, but we have to also consider, and I'm a Mike Epstein guy, he is going off the teachings of the great, the one, the only combat fighter pilot, my favorite baseball player probably of all time, Ted Williams.
Ted Williams is probably my favorite player of all time. Well, him and Bob Carruthers.
Has to be. Parisian Bob, and also like I'll throw in Briss Lord as well.
Just because
the human eyeball is the coolest name ever. So those are my.
One day we're gonna find out why.
I need to know. If anybody's out there and they can tell us, if anybody knows the lure why Briss Lord was called the human eyeball, and you can tell us with some conviction, I'll probably believe you. So
we'll have to go through newspapers from like 1910, 1911, something.
There has to be something somewhere. It'd be a lot of fun. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. Who's next on our list?
Well, after Foster's 52 homers in 1977, if you go down, comes a tie. Willie Stargell hit 48 in 1971, but we covered him in part one of this miniseries. But someone else hit 48 in a season in the 1970s, and that someone is Dave Kingman, the Sky King, who did it in 1979.
The Sky King?
Kingman hit long, as anybody who is around remembers. Kingman hit long, high fly balls, long outs, long homers. But the Sky King fit. He was also called King Kong Kingman or just Kong Kingman.
Okay, those are some incredible nicknames, first of all. Secondly, was he a Cub at some point?
He was, though he played with 7 teams.
Oh, yeah.
He hit 48. That's when he was with the Cubs when he did that.
Nice.
Fun Kingman fact. In 1977, he played with the Mets, Padres, Angels, and Yankees in the same season. He was traded. Yeah, he was traded from all of them. And he hit a homer with all of them, becoming the first guy to homer with 4 teams in a single season.
Funny, you just talked about Foster, and now you're talking about Kingman, and they played in the same Little League together.
They had other stuff in common, too. Their careers both ended in 1986, and both controversially.
Okay, there's a story here. What happened with Kingman's career?
I'll get there in a minute. Kingman hit a lot of homers, 442, leading the National League twice, but he also struck out a lot.
Like most of the 70s sluggers back then?
Kingman played 16 seasons. In 13 of them, he had more than 300 at-bats. And in all of those 13, he struck out over 100 times. Remember last time I talked about Bobby Bonds?
Yes.
And when he retired in 82, the top 3 in strikeouts all time at the time were Reggie, Stargell, and Bonds.
Yeah, I recall.
Well, in 1986, Reggie and Stargell were still 1 and 2.
You can't quit. They can't quit swinging. Just swing.
Tony Perez was number 3, and Kingman had passed Bonds to be number 4 with 1,816 whiffs. But he had way fewer at-bats than those other 3, like 3,000 at-bats fewer than Perez or Jackson.
That's a lot of strikeouts.
I think the most Kingman season of Kingman's career was 1982.
How come?
He led the National League with 37 homers for the Mets, the first Mets homer champion ever, but he hit just 204.
Whoa, that's not much to have those many homers
with that average. Steve Carlton was the National League Cy Young Award winner that year. Steve Carlton hit 215 as a pitcher, out-hitting the homer champ by 11 points.
That's insane.
Kingman did drive in 99 runs that year, but other than his 37 homers, he had 10 extra base hits, 9 doubles, and a triple.
Only 9 doubles, and that much, like, homer power?
Well, I looked it up, and only 7 people in history have ever topped 30 homers in a season with 10 or fewer doubles. And
that's a crazy stat.
I know. That was the most all-or-nothing year of Kingman's career, but he did have a few. That season, he led the majors with 156 strikeouts. He did draw 59 walks, but his on-base percentage was still below 300.
Now that's an awful, egregious statistic to be stuck with.
Earlier in his career, he had seasons where he'd have more homers than walks. This is a power hitter. Power hitters walk all the time.
Yeah.
But he was a free swinger. He just swing at anything. More homers than walks is crazy for a power hitter. His career on-base percentage was only 302. And his career batting average, but 236. Boy, when he connected, man.
This doesn't make sense. Was he like a big burly dude? Was he a big guy?
He was big. He was 6'6", which is like 2 meters tall.
Oh, that's big.
But when he retired, he was 6th in all-time homer percentage. Though when he was eligible for the Hall of Fame, he got less than 1% of the vote his first year and was dropped, from the ballot.
How was he in the field as a fielder?
Well, he came up as a third baseman. Okay. And though he did make a bunch of errors, he had a great arm because he had pitched when he was younger. And he had pretty good range, so he wasn't bad. He was all right. He played first and third, and then in the late 70s moved to the outfield. And then, at the end of his career, found his niche as a designated hitter in the AL.
I mean, that sounds like the place for him.
His first year as a DH in 1984 with the A's, he won both DH of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year and finished 13th in the MVP voting.
Was he even an All-Star?
Yeah, 3 times. Growing up, everyone knew Dave Kingman.
So he was popular.
He was kind of more infamous than popular. A lot of the sports writers found him a real jerk, like moody and mean. He once sent a live rat in a pink box to a female sports writer named Susan Fornoff, and the rat had a tag on it that said, "My name is Sue."
Oh, that's pretty shitty, man.
He refused to apologize, too, and said, "I've pulled practical jokes on other people. I didn't apologize to them." According to Fornoff, Kingman had said to her that women don't belong in the clubhouse, and he had been harassing her since she began covering the team the year before.
Did he do other stuff like that to other reporters and other people?
He once dumped a bucket of ice water on a writer's head during spring training.
All right, so he was not he was not Mr. Nice Guy.
Well, I never met him, but some of his antics, to me, at least, seemed to be fairly immature. Yeah. And a lot of teammates didn't like him over his career, but boy, he could hit the long ball several times, clearing 500 feet with his homers.
Yeah, I don't blame him for not being that popular, seeing as he pulled all these kind of antics. But let's get to the controversy when he retired.
Oh yeah, okay, I forgot. Okay, now in 84, 85, and 86, Dave Kingman hit exactly 100 homers over 3 years as the A's DH. But when the 86 season ended, he wasn't offered a new contract. In fact, no one offered Dave Kingman a contract, and his career ended after a 35-homer season.
Some team somewhere can use a bat like that. Somebody could use 35 homers.
I'm sure a bunch of teams could have, but none signed him, and it's because the owners conspired in the mid-1980s to not sign certain free agents to keep salaries down.
Are you serious?
It wasn't just Kingman, of course, though he and Hall of Famer Rod Carew were maybe the poster boys. Bob Horner went to Japan because he wasn't offered a contract. Steve Garvey and Al Oliver, they may have missed 3,000 hits because of that, and that pretty much means a ticket to the Hall of Fame.
Bob Horner as well?
Yeah, well, he went to Japan. That's why he played over there.
Jeez. Okay, did the owners get away with this? Because just not signing players, this doesn't make any sense, though.
They did not. In 1995, Kingman was actually awarded over $800,000 specifically for 1987. The whole scandal cost the owners $280 million in damages and really wrecked things between players and owners, which eventually led to the strike in 1994. Now, this all, I'll sidetrack into it, okay?
Okay.
This started in 1985. There were 35 free agents after the season, but only 4 changed teams. The Sporting News even had a cover saying, "Why won't anyone sign Kirk Gibson?" In February '86, the Players Association filed a grievance, which would be called Collusion 1.
There were more?
It was worse in 1986. What? Again, only 4 free agents changed teams, and some were forced to re-sign with their old teams for less money because no one else would sign them.
Oh my God.
And 3/4 of free agent contracts were for single seasons. In fact, Commissioner Pete Uberoth ordered the owners, didn't tell him, he ordered them. They had to call him personally if they were going to offer contracts longer than 3 years. This was the first year since free agency began that overall players' salaries declined. They dropped 16%, even though revenue was up 15%. The Players Association filed a second grievance, Collusion 2, in February 1987. In September came the ruling that the owners had violated the collective bargaining agreement by conspiring to restrict player movement.
Talk about pulling the game into disrepute. This just goes from bad to worse.
There was Collusion 3 as well. The owners just changed tactics. They started a data bank to share info about what offers were being made to what player.
Okay.
Paul Molitor, Jack Clark, loads of guys were affected. But as I said, the owners did not get away with it, and they had to pay $280 million to a lot of players.
Okay, this kind of thing, this is the stuff that ruins baseball or any sport, really, because you're basically stealing from players.
You're doing that, but it also means sort of semi-fixing pennant races and whole seasons. If teams are not able to get certain players to fill certain needs to be more competitive. There have been allegations of collusion off and on since then, but just allegations, really, and nothing that affected the basic fabric of the game.
That's so depressing, but I mean, like, to have a guy, think about it this way, right?
Think about Kingman could hit another 30 homers.
Today, 30 homers. If you say if there's a guy on the free market that can give you 30, 35 homers,
yeah,
that's a couple of extra wins. Nobody signed. That makes no sense.
Same with Rod Carew. Rod Carew could still hit. Now, Kingman, he finished with 442 homers, right? He's still hitting 30 a year.
Yeah.
2 seasons, he has more than 500.
And just can't get a contract to save his life.
No. So,
but the whole thing about it, like, affecting, like, the pennant races, because now you're stopping certain teams from getting so.
Yeah, they need a left fielder, and there's a left fielder that
and they can't get him
because the owners want to keep salaries lower.
I have a problem with sporting institutes who think that saving money or, like, having a bunch of money or making more profit is more important than winning, especially because the fans pay.
And the revenue was up. It wasn't like revenue was down.
Exactly. It's not like revenue is down. You have the money. Why are you not putting out a team to win? That makes no sense to me. I hate that.
I hate it too.
I hate that
but
so much.
On this note of hatred and depression, we're going to leave the people for today.
But everybody will be sad because I'm angry. I'm fuming, let me tell you.
Okay, well, they needn't be angry or sad because spring training is just around the corner. And then we get another season of games, and more games.
Will we do part 4 of the 1970s next time? Sluggers of the 1970s next time?
Then we will. I have more Sluggers to talk about.
Yes. Since you enjoy hearing the sounds of our voice, God, I hope you do, please give us a little bit of your hard-earned currency at patreon.com so we can continue bringing this amazing content. You get episodes early and for free if you do so.
Ad-free.
Ad-free.
Everybody gets them free.
Everybody gets them free, ad-free, yeah. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram, of course.
Okay, well, that is it for today from me, Indy Neidell.
And me, Burns.
And the Baseball History Time Machine.
Ta-da! I'm just pissed off. I'm very mad. That's egregious. That is so... Stuff like that boils me, man. Like not having money and revenue is up and you are telling all the other teams, hey, listen, you're not allowed to sign anybody. We're trying to keep the salaries.
Imagine, you could have Rod Carew, Dave Kingman, Jack Clark, Bob Horner, Kirk Gibson.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.